a conversation with Gina Kunadian. That is our topic for today. Welcome to the Lawyers and Mediators International Show and Podcast, where we discuss law and conflict resolution topics to educate both professionals and everyday people. Catch regular episodes on YouTube and anywhere you get your podcasts. Just remember, nothing in these episodes constitutes legal advice, so be sure to talk to a lawyer, as cases are fact dependent. Hi, everyone. This is attorney Mac Pierre-Louis, lawyer, mediator, arbitrator, working throughout Florida and Texas. And in today's episode, I have a special guest, a alcohol-free sobriety coach named Gina Kunadian. And Gina, you're out in the West Coast, I believe, California, and I wanted to have you on to speak to the audience about the work you do, about your backstory, and how what you do today, how you do it, impacts people, especially women out there who may be struggling with alcohol or alcoholism or alcohol abuse, specifically in the context of some of the alcohol-related consequences that I've seen in the family courts. So, but to get started, Gina, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll go into your backstory.
Yes, thank you so much, Matt, for having me on your show today. My name is Gina Kunadian. I'm an alcohol-free sobriety coach, and I help women break through the alcohol dependency so that way they can gain clarity, build more confidence, and just increase that energy and just be who they truly are. And I have a Shine Within process, or actually Shine process, that I take them through, and we focus on mind, body, and spirit. And Shine actually is an acronym. It's sobriety, healing, inspiration, nurturing, and empowerment, because all of those combined, you will definitely be shining your true selves out there in this world. And I think we need more of that these days.
Absolutely. And so thank you so much for coming on to share about this topic. And I have been doing some research just about dependency in general, dependency sometimes on a toxic relationship, dependency on drug use. But when I was doing my research, you came up on dependency on alcoholism or alcohol, specifically as it relates to women. And the reason this kind of caught my attention is because I'm a family lawyer, as you know, and I've been doing family law in Texas and Florida for the last 14 years plus, and mainly in Florida, Houston area. And what I've discovered is that alcohol plays a big role in the family courts. First, when it comes to personal relationships, a lot of times it's alcohol related issues that cause marriages to break down, relationships, to break up and separation to ensue. And people go to separate ways because they can't take some of the issues that come up from alcohol. The other issue that alcohol plays a role in is things dealing with relationships over between parents and kids, co-parenting issues, the parent-child relationship. And a lot of times you'll be in court, family court, and somebody will raise, well, judge, I don't think that this parent should have access to that child because they have no self-control with alcohol. They might have DUIs. They're going to drink drive while they're having possession of a child. I can't trust them to, wake up or not turn the stove off when the child's with them. So you see all of these problems that come up in family courts all the time where alcohol plays a role. Um, so when I found out, through research that you do this kind of work where you help women, deal with alcohol issues and not succumb to, the power of alcohol in their lives, I thought, you know what? You're the kind of person I would love to come on and speak, power into people's lives and educate people on your backstory and what can be done to help people, fight, some of these issues, is so that they don't have to have these problems, in the family courts. So, Gina, with that, tell us a little bit about yourself going back in time. I read a little bit about your story, and I think it's a very powerful story, but I want to hear it from you firsthand. So please tell us, who is Gina Kunadian?
Yes, thank you so much for allowing me to share. So it all goes back from my childhood, like any Like when you go to a therapist's office, the first question a psychologist asks, oh, how was your childhood? Well, unfortunately, my father had passed away when I was a baby. My mom decided to go ahead and start dating. I was already about 5 years old, 6 years old. And because she saw me drawing photos of what was like a father figure, a mother, and myself. And with that, she was like, okay, let me see, let's start dating. Well, the man that was welcomed inside our house, he actually was an abuser, abused me sexually from the ages of 6 to 12 years old. So I didn't know what that was supposed to be like. I didn't know how to tell my mom. I didn't know, I just thought, hey, this is normal. It wasn't. And it wasn't until I was in my high school time where I started getting into bad relationships. And mind you, I didn't tell my mom or my family or anybody about what had happened to me. I mean, luckily she did wind up not seeing him after the fact because of other issues that they were going through. But I've had all that kept inside me and bottled up. So in high school, I got into all the wrong relationships. My first boyfriend was abusing me, and I had to file a restraining order on him. I'm not the one who decided, hey, by the way, I need to get a restraining order. My mom saw the bruises on my arms because he was like physically like shaking me and manipulating me, preventing me from going to classes, would even throw me over his shoulder. And she decided, no, this is not right. So we went to court and I had to get a restraining order. Well, because he was the school jock and I was just an ordinary girl, my reputation was bad, because he made me look like everything was my fault, which then I thought it was then my fault because that's what I felt because I had no self-worth, very low self-esteem, and no confidence whatsoever. My senior year, I went ahead and met another guy. He was the opposite, got me all of these gifts and got me everything. And it was too much, it was like a little bit too much. But he introduced me to what was called more of the rave culture. Now, I've never experienced any drugs. I never smoked a cigarette. I never even drank a sip of alcohol. My first experience of partying and experiencing narcotics was at a rave. And I thought I was dying at first. I didn't know what was going on. But then I started feeling like, wow, everyone here around me is experiencing like fun and joy and love.
And
This is
Gina,
this.
to pause you real quick, for the people who might not be familiar, what's a rave? And
Oh,
give us some context.
yes, yes, yes. So yes, a great question. Yeah. So a rave is like an underground party, it was all for all ages. They have normally those clubs that are for 21 and older. Well, this one was like fast music, EDM, you would say electronic music, dance music, and then you would just go and party. And then there's glow sticks, lights, colors, and it's just like La La Land. Let's just say that. But what is introduced in these raves is the drug called ecstasy. Now, ecstasy is called the love drug. It is an MDMA chemical molecule, but later on they'll cut it with different things, and so it's very dangerous. So fortunately, I didn't have any of those experiences. I experienced whatever that love drug was supposed to, whatever the effect was supposed to be. And I started just appreciating all the love that I was getting from everybody, and that's what was missing. And so I just stuck with that culture until I turned then 21. And then I was able to go to these clubs and then drink alcohol. And so I didn't do any more ecstasy as much, let's just say. And I just started drinking. Same thing. It brought me more confidence. I actually was meeting more people, friends, where people were like, we're just enjoying each other's company. That's when I met my DJ husband at that time in 2000, I want to say 2003. We wound up getting married in 2007, had our first son in 2008. Well, my drinking came from a social to habitual to later on dependency because our lifestyle was always the same. We were drinking at home, we were drinking at clubs. It was just, we were always partying. That was our lifestyle. That was the culture for us. And got to a point where all of that anger that I had, I never really like let out or expressed or talked to anybody about. I was projecting my frustration and anger out at him. I was the one who's physically being abusive. I was the one being manipulative. I was the one accusing of him cheating. I was the one bringing up arguments. It was me. It was the drinking. And what he had discovered that he was codependent. So of course, whenever I said, hey, I want to go ahead and drink something, 5 minutes later, there'd be vodka for me. So it was always a matter of us, like we were just two unhealthy people together. When two unhealthy people together, it
So
just
he
does
would
not work.
provide you the
Oh yeah,
alcohol.
yes, an enabler. He would provide me the alcohol, and we would just be drinking at home. But then the cops would come, because we get into physical fights and everything. It just got worse and worse and worse. It got so bad that I had to drink a fifth of vodka in order for me to function. This includes driving. This includes going to work. This includes me mothering. This includes me just being doing normal things every day. So what happened, it got to a point where I, in my delusional mind, said, no, you're cheating on me. And I was acting very irrational, very, very irresponsible. And I went and took all of his items and I threw it outside. And then I told him, this is what I did, da, 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 da. And he said, well, we're not coming home. He had my son at the time, and he was at his mother's house, which she didn't live too far from us. And I was pissed. And so I just threw a fit. And he never came back with my son. And I felt alone. I felt sad. I felt in despair because I felt like I've lost everything because of alcohol. But what did I wind up doing to make me feel better, quote unquote? I started drinking more, thinking that it was going to be the solution. Obviously, it made things worse. I remember I was texting my friend one evening. I was saying, I don't want to live anymore. I don't like living like this. I said, so I'm going to take this bottle of Ativan, and there was a few left in there of those tablets, and drink.
What is that event?
Ativan, yeah. So Ativan is actually, well, I was taking it for anxiety because another symptom of my alcoholism was depression and anxiety. It comes all together with it, as I never resolved whatever issue I was going through before, and why I was now then drinking was not resolved. So I was taking medication, and Ativan was one of them. And so, of course, and it makes you tired. And I drank that, or took that, and I drank alcohol with it. And then sure enough, he took that text message seriously and decided to go ahead and contact my mom, and who then called the ambulance. And I remember the ambulance coming, taking me to the hospital. And then I woke up and my doctor was there because I had been seeing him, and we were trying to seek help for what solution can help me in my anxiety and anger. And he was there, and he said, I'm so happy you're alive. And I was just like, so out of it. And so I wound up being an inpatient for 3 days, which then I was out doing an outpatient program. That outpatient program is where you get together and you learn more about coping skills on your anxiety, anger, depression. And I remember one of the counselors coming to me and saying, hey, do you drink alcohol? And I denied it. I said, no, I'm here for anxiety. I'm here for anger issues, is what I was saying in my head. And then it wasn't until the same year in November that I had come, I was partying all night, and my mom said, well, let me pick you up. We're going to go to your brother's house for Thanksgiving. I said, okay, but I didn't have any alcohol with me. So I was kind of already feeling very sick and shaky and clammy. And I felt like I was dying. And I told my mom, I need to drink something. And she says, what? You don't need to drink nothing. I said, no, I do. And I said, can I please have something to drink? Bless her heart, she only brings a four ounces of red wine. And here I am drinking a fifth of vodka in order for me to function. I said, no, mom, you drink the whole bottle. And she's like, what? And that was the day in 2014 on Thanksgiving that I admitted that I was an alcoholic. And wow, I finally admitted it. And the next month in December, I went ahead and checked myself into a 30-day rehabilitation program, where it was a wonderful facility out in nature. I met wonderful people. I felt so good. I felt like I was coming alive, being, myself again. But what did I do right after I left? Thinking, hey, I got this under control. Sure, no problem. I went to the casino that was only 20 minutes away, and then I was drinking with a friend that I invited. And then sure enough, he was a college friend that we used to date back then. And we kind of hooked up again, and I wound up getting pregnant. Well, what happened is that we thought, well, let's try to make it work, even though he was a friend of mine. And what I was noticing is during my pregnancy, no alcohol, breastfeeding, no alcohol. As soon as the baby got onto his bottle, I got on mine as well. And then the behaviors came again, patterns, anger, everything came back, but it was so much worse. And it got to a point where he called the cops and I wound up being in jail. And mind you, this is the time I've also been trying to fight for my son, the first son as well. And that's a whole other that's another podcast too, and the whole court situation and then all of that. But I wound up going to jail, but it didn't stop me from drinking. It wasn't until
Oh, you
one
in
day
jail?
I was in there only like 3 days. It was like 3 days, and they're like, okay, you can leave. Um, yeah, it wasn't for drinking and driving or anything. It was because I was being physically abusive again. Like I have so much anger built inside. And yeah, so what happened is I started drinking again and the same thing, same pattern, same behavior, same habits. But I was done. I was like, I do not want to live like this. So the moment that I realized that was the time I was in my car. I was at a liquor store parking lot and I went ahead and I was like, God, if you exist, I need help. I wasn't spiritual, I wasn't religious at the time. I just knew there was a greater power, higher power than myself. And so, sure enough, 2 weeks later, I wound up going to the hospital. I'm like, oh, great. Even God's mad at me for pancreatitis. But really, truly, Meg, it was a blessing in disguise. What had happened is I really actually had to sit with myself. And I remember that doctor coming to me and she was very serious. And she was like, if you don't quit drinking, Gina, you're going to die in 10 years. And I was young, I was in my 30s. And I was like, die? I have 2 children. I have myself. What am I doing? What am I doing? And I thought, like, what would it be like without my children having a mother in their lives? What would it be like? How would they live? A healthy mom, I'm thinking. And I said, I need to change. And I really sat with myself and my spirit and God. And I was like, you know what? I need to change. This is a perfect opportunity for me to detox. I'm in the hospital setting. No one visited me, of course, because everyone's pissed off at me, I'm sure. But I really sat with myself. And when I got released a week later, because I was living by myself, I forgot to mention I had my own little studio at the time because it just obviously didn't work out. He took our son, because obviously it was in a healthy situation. I decided to never drink again. It was in September of 2017. And that was it. There was a bottle of vodka in the freezer waiting for me. I was like, nope, threw it away. And since then, I just really started learning who I am as a spiritual being.
So in 2014, you went through that 30-day rehab. That was, I guess, your first attempt or your belief that
Yes.
this is over. Yeah, you can control it. But it took another 3 years. So in September 2017, that's when you finally, would you say, hit rock bottom?
Yes, yes, I hit
Yeah.
rock bottom. It was affecting my health, my relationships. Like I said, my kids were not even in my life anymore.
Yeah.
And I wanted to change. I didn't
Yes.
want to live like that anymore. And I'm so happy. And thinking back, like, wow, all of that stuff happened. And now I'm just like, it's just a complete transformation right now.
So, I mean, hearing your story, I didn't realize so many connections to the family court system, actually, because you're right. This does not only impact your relationship laterally with, your partner, but the children who get it, who
Mhm.
are involved, who then get impacted like this, because I'm sure that they miss their mom, right? They need their
Right,
mom in their lives, and you couldn't be there because something else had control of you in a way.
right.
So I'm sharing your website real quick before we continue, and should see it on my screen. And this is GinaKunadian.com, and your story, coaching, your podcast, and events, media, more. Everything is there for folks to check you out and learn more about you, the work you do now, which I want to hear about. And so definitely want people to go to your website, GinaKunadian.com. If you're listening to this, then it's Gina, Gina. Kunadian is Kunadian.com. That's the website. You can check her out and learn more about your story. So Gina, why don't we, now that we have come halfway, through your story, and we understand where you came from, and you have an encounter with God, you have an encounter with yourself, you are finally admitting, to yourself what's going on and all the horrible things that have been done to you. And I'm sorry that these things were done to you, by the way, especially the sexual abuse. I mean, as a child, you had no control, no power over that. That should never be done to anybody. But having gone through all that now, pivot for us. What do you do now? And what happened since 2017 that brought you to the work you do now?
Yes. And so everybody's journey is different. And so the path that I was led, this is through a lot of prayer, a lot of meditation. I was led to join community. And so I was actually involved in a church. And this was very new to me. And I remember walking inside the church and I was just crying, like crying and crying. Like I was feeling like something was taking over my body and releasing all of this negative energy. And I just started being more active in the church. I was in women's Bible study. I was serving. I was doing street ministry where we would go ahead and serve the homeless. And then I was doing children's ministry where I would serve the children. And, oh, I love the children. And it brought me so much joy because even though I didn't have my kids at that time, I was able to serve the other children there. And it was just a beautiful experience for me. I kind of get emotional about this because children mean so much to me. Um, excuse me.
No, no, no.
Um,
This is why we have having this talk, because there's a lot of people I think are out there who have gone through these exact same steps, but they have not found a way out, right? They haven't
right.
figured out, okay, what do I need to do different? And this is why so you bring a lot of hope, I think, to a lot of folks out there. And so thank you so much for sharing it and being open and being vulnerable like this. I very much appreciate it.
Yeah, so that brought me so much joy. And I noticed that the more I was serving and doing for others, the more I was learning more about myself. And then I actually wanted to do more of the physical activity. So I got into what's called Orange Theory Fitness and was starting to work out. A friend had recommended a woman who was doing like yoga and she does fitness trainer. And also, she is a mindset coach for women. I really had to focus on my mind because I felt like I was worthless. I felt like I was ugly. I felt like I had no hope for me whatsoever. That coach helped me so much, like with all of my limiting beliefs. She helped me reframe my mindset when it comes to things. She made me view the world differently. And it just brought so much more. It brought so much like a clear vision, like especially when 2020 happened, things even got more clear for me because I come from the spa business. I do massage therapy. I'm still doing massage therapy for so many years, about 17 years now. And that pause allowed me to rediscover who I am as a spiritual being, learning things that I love to do, which I didn't know I loved to cook. I didn't know I liked to do like makeup. I didn't know I enjoyed reading so many books and just getting involved in researching all these things. And I enjoyed that. So that pause really helped me discover who I am, especially spending time out in nature. That was one of my favorite physical activities to do is just to go out in nature and just be still. I noticed when I was being still, my mind was calm. I felt so complete and I felt so whole, like something like a nice warm hug. Someone was giving me a nice warm hug, and I felt so good. Mind you, I forgot to mention to you that during my whole recovery process, I actually was serving the children's ministry, like I said, and there was this little boy that reminded me of my little boy. And I just loved him so much. Well, this so happened that his father was in street ministry in a different team. And I was just sharing with him, oh, yeah, I know your son. He's so cute. And he's like, oh, you know my son? I said, yeah. He's like, well, maybe we should get the kids together sometime because I know you have a child too. I'm like, yeah, sure. And here I was thinking, oh, no, I do not want to date anybody. The only one I want to date is myself and the higher power above. And so I said, oh no, but then we just started talking and everything flowed together that I didn't think that I was ready for any of this stuff, but obviously things changed and we wound up getting married in 2020 and so now like everything changes. Like once I became sober, all of these doors open, opportunities happen that I would never be involved in. Like first off, I thought I would never like speaking with you. Would I ever thought I would be speaking to someone like you on a podcast show like this? No, never. But it's such a blessing. Like I have so much joy and I'm filled with so much gratitude that I'm just I'm just amazed and in awe that our potential after we are sober minded, what we can do in life. And now I have my family back together. Yes, I had to go to court. Yes, I had to go to mediations. Yes, yes, yes. But you know what? I have my family that I have that I always wanted. We're a family unit again. And plus some, plus some, because I have a stepson that I also gained. And so it's just beautiful.
Wow. So you've said a lot there. I think back. I think back to all the years and different cases and things that I've seen, and not just my own cases, for my own clients, but other, lawyers' cases and some of the stories you hear in family court. It'll break your heart, right?
Mhm,
Because you obviously lived your life and you've had an impact, both negative but positive now in the lives of other people around you. So take it from somebody who has had the opportunity to see a lot of different, individuals struggle, with this. And when I stand back and I look at it, I just think about all the things that the judges see.
mhm,
Judges have stories. Now they can't share them, obviously, but judges have heard and seen so many different things. And from kids being abused physically, to divorces, marriages ending, and these things are very heavy, right? But the reason this is so important to me and why I wanted to have you on to discuss it is because I see it so much and you're not an isolated, instance. Before we continue, wanted to share my screen. This is the article I told you I was going to, share, and this article is dateline back in July 28th, 2023. It's titled under under Women's Health. More women in the U.S. are drinking themselves to death, research finds. Alcohol is still killing more men, but 2 decades of data from the CDC show that women's alcohol-related mortality is rising at a faster rate. And so there were some, intriguing stats in here that I found. This is by Linda Carroll. People can check it out. Just go to Google and put Linda Carroll and NBC News. But one of the things it talks about is how, it's more accepting now, to drink socially, of course. Since the 1900s, there's been a progressive increase in drinking by women, and they're getting closer to men. Um, but then it talks about how because women's bodies are different, they metabolize alcohol differently. For example, women have a lower amount of the enzyme alcohol dehydrogenase, needed to break down the drink. And so this then causes women to have higher rates of, damage to the liver, cirrhosis. And so I didn't realize just how, I guess, insidious alcohol and alcoholism can be towards women and their bodies. And also don't forget women, breastfeed and have babies. And so that's a whole nother thing, that me as a guy, I don't think about it, a whole much. But there's real data to actually, back up a lot of what you're saying. And that is that there's a trend that the quintessential alcoholic man that you might see in the movies is not the norm anymore. There's also a lot of women who struggle with alcohol dependency and don't know then how do you get out of that cycle? Because it sounds like you had a cycle that you just kind of found yourselves in, right? 2014, you thought this is it, I got this under control, and it took another 3 years for you to finally break, that back. So then next question, what are some of the common challenges people face, especially women, face when they're trying to recover from alcohol addiction? Because you've gone through it, but you know the challenges. So for the people who are listening, people who might have this issue, what are some of the common challenges that they face?
yes, there's a lot of common challenges. This is really because we're so stuck in our habits, our routines, and the people we hang around with plays a huge, huge factor. I had to let go a a lot of friends, because they were my drinking buddies, and those aren't really true friendships because we were just speaking loud, not saying much, you know, and I really had to change my behaviors, my habits, and change my routine. So immediately what I did is, well, first off, I had to surrender to that higher power. And I said, I need guidance. I cannot do this alone. Show me the way. When you ask, you will literally receive. And so like I said, that mentor of mine, she shared with me morning routines, what I can do. So my mornings, was dealt with exercising, dealt with deep breathing, dealt with, reading something funny, something entertaining, finding things that I actually enjoyed. It's hard in the beginning. I'm not going to lie. It's hard to just change all of a sudden because you've been used to a certain way for so many years. A quote that Jim Rohn says, he's an author and entrepreneur, is saying, um, in order for things to change, you need to change. So
Sounds
if
simple.
you,
Sounds simple.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And so we really do need to go ahead and change those habits. It's hard, but having that accountability partner, having a close friend, having a mentor, having somebody by your side with no judgment is crucial in recovery, is
So,
definitely crucial.
so some of the things you've said, you let go of some friends who
Yes.
may have been a bad influence or who would kind of keep you in that world, but you have also said getting what an accountability partner, so getting a new friend or getting people who are
Yes.
gonna be going alongside you.
Yeah, so we have to find our sober tribe. Like, okay, let's go ahead. How do we meet these people, right? Well, like I said, for me, it was first church. First church. And I'm going to share a story with you. So I was involved in a women's Bible study, and I was into my M&L products, health products, because I wanted to try different things, see what I liked and enjoyed. And that's the key too, try different things and then see what you enjoy. And because I wanted to be healthy as well. I actually said for my women's group to go ahead and pray for my business, and then one lady said, "Hey, if you're wanting to be an entrepreneur, why don't you check out this women's master class for building a business?" And I'm like, "Build a business? Yeah, right. Okay." And then sure enough, I went in and I attended the classes, and then I was getting face recognition, like, "Oh, hey, Gina, how are you? Nice to see you." And there was an assignment on there that said, share your story, be vulnerable, share your story in 2 minutes, right? So that's what I did. And then I got a scholarship for business coaching. And that's when I learned even more. And I met so many people. The opposite of addiction is connection. So being connected to like-minded women, for me was just incredible because we all had the same goal in mind. We all want to be successful and help others and become an entrepreneur. Did I ever think I was going to become an entrepreneur back then? No, but why not give it a try? It's something new, and you'd be surprised at your potential. Everything is limitless once you have that proper mindset and start practicing those skills. And so I met so many women, which brought so many more opportunities, and I've developed such great friendships. The key is to actually surround yourself with people who you want to be like, who you want to model, and and then who inspire you. Be around those people, and then you'll see a difference in your life.
Heard that phrase that we are the sum of the average of the five people who we spend the most time around. I don't know if that's true, but it sounds true. So the
Yeah.
people that you hang out with, right, are probably going to influence your life. What about if you're like introverted or maybe for reasons like shame, you don't want to open up, you don't want to let people in to know what you've gone through, you're trying to go it alone. Do you recommend that advice, or you think no, you got to break out of that shell, and you have to connect with other people? Because the opposite, as you've said, of addiction is connection.
Yes. And so then connect to your spirit is what I would recommend. Learn yourself, become your own best friend. Like for me, and then my husband, I always tell him this, I enjoy my alone time because I connect with myself. I don't need to have to be around everybody, although I do like to be around people, but I love to be by myself. I hated to be by myself before when I was drinking because I was afraid and I had so much fear, like, oh, I don't want to be feeling this way. What's wrong with me? I enjoy myself. And so finding things that you enjoy doing and start with that. and then eventually I think later on in time, you will then start opening up and start maybe meeting people. Like another great website that I did, especially as a new mom, is I went on to meetup.com. Whatever habits you love to do, whatever, like hobbies you enjoy, look that up. So whether if it's like chess, a book club, exercise group, hiking group, start with that and see. And if you really want to start hanging around with sober people, look up, just go on Google and just sit sober events. You'll find a lot. And then you can connect with like-minded women who are wanting to become sober.
Got it. Got it. Okay, so next question. Can you describe your overall approach to supporting people in their recovery journey? So, how does what you do and how you help people differ from the traditional 12-step program? And I'm going to share my screen because on your website, you have what you describe as the shine um, process. You started explaining it in the very beginning of this recording, and but obviously you went kind of fast through it, and people who are not familiar with, and people like me who want to see something on paper. So here it is. So explain to us, how does this differ from a traditional 12-step process, and can you kind of help us understand what we're looking at when we see design your mind, improve your body, and connect your spirit?
Yes, beautiful question. I'm going to share with my story, my personal story, my experience. I tried the whole AA meetings, Alcoholics Anonymous, the 12 steps, and I didn't like the first step where it says, I want to say that I'm powerless. Why would I want to say that I'm powerless? You know, um, no, I need guidance. It takes power to ask for help, I think. And I didn't like the fact that I would have to go into these meetings and say, hey, I'm Gina and I'm an alcoholic. No, I'm not. I don't want to be that. Why do I have to say that? Now, mind you, if AA and the 12 step is working for you, please continue because if it's because it's working. But unfortunately, it didn't work for me. And so that's why I found another route. And I really focused more on loving myself. How do I love myself? Because I feel like when you start loving yourself and we embrace that self-love, you will probably embrace a more successful sobriety because we need to get to the root cause, more of a holistic approach, sustainable sobriety. And the root cause is
Say that again. You said sustainable sobriety.
sustainable sobriety. Yeah, it was sustainable because I can't guarantee like, oh yeah, you're gonna be sober. It's everyone has their own journey. Um, but really, I think once you start practicing self-love, and it includes, designing your mind and getting your mindset right, speaking nice and kindly to yourself, the way you speak to yourself, would it be the same way you speak to a child or a stranger? No, then why is it okay that you speak to yourself that way? And when it comes to the body, it's very important because I feel like those endorphins when you're working out, they make you feel so good. Like, like I enjoy working out because it just makes me feel good. I'm not trying to look like a certain person, like a six pack or anything. I work out because I want to feel good. And also incorporating breathing techniques definitely help. I'm a massage therapist, so I do a lot of the body work with like stretching and things to get your body more fluid. Because often, with alcohol, it's poison. We're poisoning our body. We need to get our body back to the original state. And with, of course, the whole spiritual aspect, which is the most important one, I think, is really connecting to your spirit. I really believe that once you connect to your inner guidance, that one that's rooting for you and cheering you on, not that one that's talking negative to you, that one needs to go away. But the one that's supporting you and your guidance, listen to that, and you can connect your spirit with through prayer, with meditation, just being still. Now, when I'm saying meditation doesn't mean you have to like sit cross-legged doing ohms. No, it could just even being, I'm stepping away from the computer, I'm taking several deep breaths, and just having that stillness alone is going to help you immediately. And just connecting to your true self. And I believe once you connect to your true self, you're not going to think about alcohol anymore. Because I drank because I wanted to build self-confidence. I drank because I wanted to be like everybody else, like around me. I wanted to please everybody else around me. So I would drink. but I never really connected to myself because no one teaches us these things in school. Like we don't teach us self-love 101. They don't. And I believe when we do love ourselves and embrace self-love, then we will have a successful sobriety,
So
enriching us
what?
with the, yeah.
Yeah, no, so what I see that, or what I'm understanding is, you were reaching for the bottle because you were looking for something, right?
Yes.
But the anecdote to that is you could put the bottle away when you learn to love yourself for who you are and not need to get validation from that third thing, that alcohol that you were using to, I guess, what to find purpose, get meaning. Is that how you would frame it
Yes.
as well?
Absolutely. And
Okay.
even for those who are just questioning the drink, they're having the decision, hey, well, hey, you just a lot of times we're drinking at funerals, we're celebrating, we're drinking because we're going out to parties and even dinners. They offer us, so they give us a wine list. There's alcohol all around us, but
Exactly.
it's the only substance where people are asking, why aren't you doing if you don't partake in? And then
Exactly.
people have a problem with that nowadays,
Well,
I
well,
see.
well then, well then, like, let's talk to us then about triggers or relapsing. Like, how do you? Because again, when you're looking at this three-step process, design your mind, improve your body, connect your spirit. For those first two, how do you make sure that it is going to be sustainable and you're not going to fall back? Because people who are on a diet, for example, and they're working on their body, sometimes they want to have that bag of chips and they want to go back because they don't feel like working out anymore. How do you make sure that you're going to stay on target?
Yes. Well, just to be real, like you are going to probably have those moments of relapse, but as long as you don't have that guilt and shame behind it, and give yourself grace and compassion, those two things together are going to help tremendously. Give yourself, you know what? So I drank. But you know what? I drank less today. That's a win. Look at those small changes that are happening in your life and take baby steps. It's very difficult to have that mindset of like, I'm going to just stop all of a sudden. And that's not realistic. We have to be more realistic and just give ourselves that grace and compassion um, to ourselves. That's where that inner spirit, that guidance that we have, that's where that love comes in.
So, what advice would you give to someone who is just now starting to consider seeking help for an alcohol problem?
Yes, I would definitely have them find somebody to either be an accountability partner, to anything that works best for them, and they can try different things. But again, it's going to go back to that grace and compassion. Really, just having those two and developing a relationship with yourself is going to help you. And being surrounded by like-minded people, like look at where you want to be in your life and in your mind visualize, well, what kind of person is she going to be like? What is she eating? How is she talking to people? What are those things that she's doing? How is she treating others? How is she treating her kids? How is she treating her family? And then keep that in mind, and then you'll see it more and more starting to like manifest the more and more you're practicing those mindset skills, having a healthier relationship with your body, mind, and of course your spirit.
So, can you share a success story of a client, someone who you've worked with who has overcome alcohol addiction with your support? Because you were, one person who did it, and then you followed the mentorship of another person who helped you. Now you've been helping other people. Can you share a success story to show that this actually works? It's multiplying.
Yeah, so it's so funny. There's a lady named Allison. So her husband and her, they own bars.
Okay.
And what has helped her is just the fact that saying, you know what? I'm just going to give myself a month of not drinking. And then allowing her to say that instead of like, I'm just going to stop completely. And then doing those practices that we work on, with mind, body, and spirit. She noticed that, hey, I'm so much happier without alcohol. I don't even want it anymore. And now her husband and her have a list of I mean, they still have the bar, of course, list of mocktails for those who don't want to drink. And then you can still have fun with those drinks. Just have fun with like looking up online and creating like non-alcoholic drinks. Like I do it all the time. Like what kind of smoothie drink or what kind of like mocktail I can make. And it's so much fun.
Yeah, it really goes to show just how connected to the social aspect. Like drinking is fun; it's a societal thing. We accept it. Um, but and it seems most people are not, alcoholic, and they don't abuse it, and they drink socially. And I've had margaritas. They're fun. They're fine. They taste good. Um, but there's always that line where you
Mm.
cannot guarantee that you won't become an alcoholic, right? You can't guarantee that. And so I think for some people, and I've had this position in the past, well, you know what? I'm just not going to do it at all. I'm not going to take the risk, especially if I think it's something that ran in my family. I'm not going to open myself to that. But most people, for the most part, have handled it. But I can't imagine, struggling with a problem and running a bar. I mean, that seems a little bit counterintuitive.
Yes, I'm sure she's not working there as much. But I mean, that's how strong her skills are now. Like
Exactly.
like she
Well,
doesn't even phase her anymore. That's some power.
yeah. So but you were giving examples of all other things you can do, alternatives, right? So if you want to just have cocktails without alcohol, is that one way that people can, okay, I can still participate socially without letting this thing potentially take any kind of control over me? That's a solution.
Yes, there's many solutions. So for like parties so if you're going to a party, right?
Mhm.
And then that there's going to be alcohol there. If you feel like it's too much, maybe don't go. Just don't go and then surround yourself in that situation. But if you're okay with it, there's different techniques that you can go ahead or different practices you can go ahead and do. One is what I call the Cinderella rule. Before midnight, just leave because it gets a little
Ah,
bit rowdier
that's
after
that's good.
midnight. Just leave. It's that way you say, hey, I partake, and then drive yourself because that you'll know you won't be drinking and driving afterward. You'll probably have to pay the consequences if you do. Or have an accountability friend where saying, hey, I'm in this position right now. I don't feel comfortable. And then maybe have them pick you up if you didn't drive. Or you can go ahead and bring your own seltzer water with you and then just put it in a cup and drink like everyone else drinking. And then they'll think you're drinking and they won't bother you. And if they do bother you, just say, hey, I'm sorry. You can just lie and say, I'm on medication. I can't drink right now. Or you can just be honest and saying, hey, this is not part of my lifestyle. I'm going alcohol free. The truth is always best, I always say.
No, absolutely. So next question. So, me myself, I'm a person of faith, and you've written that when you hit rock bottom, it was your surrender to a higher power that led to the beginning of your empowerment. So, how important is a faith journey, in this recovery process? And you've talked about it, through this whole conversation multiple times. But how crucial is that? Because many people may say, "Well, I'm not really a religious person. I didn't grow up in the church. Or I don't want to, go start go into that world, but how important or necessary is that?
In my own experience, it was the only way. Honestly, it was the only way because I didn't know about coaches or anything like that before. It wasn't in my world. It was just only like AA. But for me, I really had to surrender because I was stuck in my ways. I thought I can do it all by myself. And the biggest thing that helped me was asking for help. Once I asked for help, that was it. Like it was a game changer. At first, I was like, "Oh no, I'm gonna die here in this hospital with this pancreatitis." It was like the worst in labor pain. But it changed my whole perspective on everything. And I just got into a community where prayer was big. And I just started praying every day. And I appreciate people who supported me, even though they didn't know my whole story, but they were just supporting me because they knew I was, recently new in recovery. And they were just supporting me so much. And I appreciate all of them. And then my family too. Like my family was supportive too. My mom, like she didn't really understand alcohol, she never drank hardly in the household. But her brothers did. And so she kind of understood it, but not too much. And so, but she always supported me no matter what my decision was. And I appreciate what she did for me in my life. And I'm just grateful for all of the new friends that I've made along this journey and meeting you as well. And just everything
Definitely.
is going well. Yeah.
Yes, so we'll stay in touch, definitely. I think um like different churches have, recovery groups. And so if somebody is out there who, doesn't consider themselves religious or doesn't really go to church, one of the benefits of visiting one of these congregations is that they have these groups you're talking about, right? There's
Yeah.
a Gina in one of your local, churches down the street who might who can share their story. And I think that community is extremely important. That's one thing that we overlook. So it's because you need other people to come alongside you as part of the faith journey as well.
You're right. Yeah.
So, in addition to your Shine Within program, can you recommend any other books, podcasts, or other resources that have been helpful for people in recovery?
Yes, there's a list actually on FeedSpot. This is for women, and there's probably some for men as well, but
Yep.
it's women's 50 best podcast shows on there. I mean, I have my own podcast as well, Shine Within, and we mostly focus on the mind, body, and spirit. So I have expert guests come on there who share tools in how to break through certain barriers that people are having, whether it's food, whether it's their mindset, and whether it's trying to connect to their spirit. And also, as far as books, what really helped me is I don't know if you can see a devotion book like this.
Let me
I
stop my
really
share. Go ahead, hold it for the camera.
This is called A Pathway to God's Presence. What is it? Just devotions, and like I said, this is what helped me. It may not help you, but this is what the path that I was led to. Another book, if you're not into that particular type of, is what I really love by this is Untethered Souls. So more of like learning about inner peace and learning more about your emotions and where they come from and how you can go ahead and respond differently. And this is by Michael Singer here. This is a good book. And during my entrepreneurship, I really love Rebecca Cafiero. She is my mentor, Becoming You. This has helped me in my entrepreneurial journey, and these are the books that I love. There's so many more. If you want boundaries, one is called "You Had Me at No" by Sheryl Green. So if you want to learn more about boundaries, because that's a big thing when it comes to recovery, like no,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yes, well, definitely I'd like to get all the, listed books you've just
yeah.
referenced so I can put them on the show notes so people can, get them wherever they go buy books. And so thank you for sharing that. And it's a good resource. And I'll share my screen again to show your own podcast. So Shine Within with Gina Kunadian. And folks can find this where? Basically
Any,
anywhere.
yeah, any of your favorite podcast platform?
eh, Great. And
Apple.
yeah, no, so I started checking it out as well, because I was intrigued by your story. So awesome. So I've been taking notes, and some of these, I guess phrases, some of the things that you said, I want to make sure that I put them as tags on the blog post that I write. For example, the Cinderella rule, like it's smart to have a time in your mind where you're ready to say, you know what, it's time for me to go. Right? It's a good approach. Um, Sustainable sobriety. And I understand that, that it's not something that is going to be easy, but you need to build baby steps and build upon it over time. The opposite of addiction is connection, and you need to make sure that you surround yourself with people who are going to be supporting of you. And I think maybe it's shame, maybe whatever reason, people might not want to open up to others because they might feel judged, right? And human beings, as you know, can be very judgmental toward each other. We don't show each other mercy, and we don't extend grace on others. But if you can find a group of people who can show you grace, mercy, and forgiveness, then I think that's going to go a long way towards helping you. Um, you mentioned you mentioned that you struggled with depression and anxiety as well. So just, I guess, top of mind question: how deep do you think is that connected to people struggling with alcohol when it comes to depression and anxiety? Is that something that you think is very prevalent in our culture, and that is what's causing a lot of the alcohol abuse?
Yes, because a lot of it stems like, why are we drinking? We need to question the drink. It's either to fill or not to fill. And so for me, it was, I wanted to feel something and I wanted to numb that anxiety that I had. And it could be from, like, it stems back probably from my childhood because I was 8 years old, diagnosed with IBS because I had so much anxiety and stomach issues that's what they diagnosed me, but that's not what it was. It was the trauma that was stuck there in my stomach. They always say your gut's like your second brain. So it was stuck there. And so I had to release that all. And through my process, what my mentor also taught me, but I really think that the alcohol and depression, the alcohol does not help with the anxiety. It makes it a lot worse. Same thing with the depression. I mean, it's a depressant. So why are you going to drink if you're already depressed? So I truly believe that once you get off the alcohol, that depression, anxiety goes away. I mean, at least it did for me. I was on many medications. I don't take any medication. I haven't in a long, long time. Besides my vitamins. Those are always good.
Those are supplements. That's fine.
Yeah, supplements. Yeah, yeah, but I don't take anything. And my life is, I mean, I was like, I had panic attacks. I was even hospitalized with panic attacks. I suffered like 2 suicide attempts, but I don't have those thoughts anymore. I just live a life of joy. I'm so much fulfilled spiritually and emotionally, and I want to share that with others because it can be done. If I
Well, there
can
you
do
have
it,
it, one.
anybody can do it.
Well, that's why I wanted to have you on because, we want to give hope. And, again, we typically talk about law and conflict resolution topics. But personally, my big mission is to use this podcast to help people somehow, right? Otherwise, what's the point? I can't take it with me. And so I thank you so much, for what you shared today and to show people that, look, hope is alive and you can be successful. And so if there are, parents, specifically a mom, who's out there who's just, at her wit's end and maybe has abused alcohol and maybe finding herself in family court and now she potentially has the government authority, like the judge, making decisions over her and her children, what would you say to that person out there who's struggling, who can connect the dots to show that a lot of what they're dealing with right now connects and relates to abuse of alcohol in their lives? What would you say?
Yes, I say just keep going and keep trying. Don't give up, and like I'm always going to bring back that love and compassion and grace. Give yourself. And it takes time for me. Like when I didn't have my children, I hurt, but prayer really helped tremendously. Just keep that faith and you'll see things change.
So, well, Gina Kunadian, thank you so much for talking to me today on the LMI podcast. We very much appreciate you. And hopefully we can have you back, to talk more because there's so many different, pivots we could make on this important topic. All right, guys. So thanks for checking us out on LMI podcast. Check out YouTube channel and everywhere else you get your podcasts. And check out Shine Within with Gina Kunadian now, season 2. All right. Thank you so much.